Hello everyone. This video will provide some context for the English 1340 Technical Writing Instructions project that you'll be working on with your groups for the remainder of the semester. So first, I want to talk about why we'll be working with instructions. The biggest reason is because we all end up writing instructions at some point, and we definitely all use instructions throughout our lives. So it's important to understand what makes strong and effective instructions. People who are in engineering or computer science will be writing standard operating procedures or instructions on how to perform a program or how to write code. People who are in healthcare will help write processes for a specific nursing task or a specific procedure. So we'll all write instructions at some point. I write instructions all the time, and when I was a technical writer, I had very specific formats for the instructions that I had to write. Another reason I want to work with instructions is because they reinforce a lot of the things we've been working on this semester. So we added document design with our infographic. We talked about concision and clarity with our instructions and our resumes. And throughout the entire semester, we've talked about audience awareness, which is especially important when you're working with instructions. So, what instructions will you be working on? That entirely depends on your group and what your group chooses. Your group can choose to write your instructions on something related to your majors, or you can choose to write it on something silly and totally disconnected. Either way is fine. So on this slide, I've given you some examples of projects that students have done in the past. I had students who did recipe instructions for a short recipe that was featured on BuzzFeed Tasty's Instagram. I've had students work with instructions to make crafts like origami, slime, some sort of other craft that only took 10 or 15 minutes. And I've also had students do instructions on how to use a program. Maybe you found that one of the Canva tutorials wasn't particularly helpful. You could investigate that. Whatever instructions you choose throughout this project, you will imagine that you are writing for the person who owns the instructions. So for example, the recipe instructions, you'd be writing to BuzzFeed Tasty. So you would be offering them recommendations on how they could make their recipe video better, how they could make those instructions stronger. If you are talking about a Canva tutorial, you'd be responding directly to Canva. They'd be your major audience. So you're imagining that you've been hired by these companies to investigate and make recommendations to their instructions. Now, this is an important note down here. Keep in mind that you will have to test these instructions for real at some point during the process. That's actually step 2 of the process. So use instructions that you can test, that you can use. Oil change instructions would not be very feasible because that would be a very expensive set of instructions to test. But imagine making slime over and over again and having your friends and family help you test your slime instructions that you're working with. That's doable. So you want to pick something that's not too time intensive and that's not so specific that you can't find real users, such as your friends, your family, and your teammates, to help you test your instructions. So here's what we'll be doing throughout this instructions project. This is our overview of the documents that you'll be submitting. For the first 3 weeks, you'll be working here on the proposal. This proposal responds to an imaginary request for proposals, which the proposal chapter of your textbook will talk about, but that just means that you're imagining that a company, let's say PGCC Advising, that's what the sample uses, let's say that PGCC Advising came to you with a request for proposals. They said, we'd like you to submit a proposal to analyze our instructions. Your proposal will respond to that request. Your proposal will provide research and analysis plans, so your specific plan for how you will analyze the instructions, aiming to convince your instructions owners to hire you. So if you're looking at a BuzzFeed Tasty video, Your proposal will convince BuzzFeed that you have the knowledge, the skills, and the plan to follow through with their test and recommendations. So this is the project that you're going to start working on with your group now. Later, in a few weeks, we'll actually build a usability test. So, for example, if you're working with slime, your usability test will be a specific set of things that you're looking for, qualities that you're looking for, tasks that you will have your users perform to help you test how good or bad the instructions are, how effective or ineffective they are, so that you can collect data that will help you make recommendations. Last but not least, we'll submit a recommendation report to the owner of your instructions. So you'll let BuzzFeed or the owner of the slime instructions, whoever owns your instructions, you'll let them know what recommendations you think would make their instructions more effective for the users. And that'll be data-driven. Instead of just saying, I think this would be better, you'll say, users in our usability test, so you'll refer back to your test, users in our usability test had a hard time with this specific step. Here's why, and here's how we could improve it. And it'll also improve concrete examples. So instead of saying step number 4 was bad, you'll say, here's how you might want to rewrite step number 4. Or instead of saying the formatting of your document was bad, you'll give an example of a document that's well formatted so that they can see exactly what you're recommending. But overall, these are the last 3 projects that you'll be working on in this class, and they will all be based on the instructions that you choose with your groups during the first week of this process. Now, many of you were probably not really listening to what I was saying about the instructions project because you were so busy focusing on the fact that you have to work with groups. This seems to really terrify students, especially in an online class. But our course learning objectives include overcoming group conflict, so it's important that during this class you do work with groups, even if it is online. Because in the real world, you're going to have to work with groups eventually. And trust me, even people who are really good at their jobs, who are very competent and intelligent people, can be hard to work with. I encounter it all the time. But because I'm able to overcome group conflict, I can still work with people, reach our goals, and maintain my sanity in the meantime. That's important too. And I also like using group work in an online class because the world is changing. The people that you work with every day aren't necessarily going to be people who are at your job physically. They may be people halfway across the world. They may be people in a different state. They may be people who work from home. And you'll have to work with them through document sharing, things like Skype, messaging. You'll have to find ways to overcome the physical barriers so that you can still work together to accomplish your goals in the end. So this project is really good practice. It can be very frustrating working with groups during the process, but it can also be really rewarding. Maybe everybody in your group watched this video, but not everyone caught everything that I said. When you're working with a group and you have a question, you can defer to your group instead of to me, which brings me to my next point. Here are some tips for really effective group work. Communication, that is the most important thing. Stay in contact with each other. You don't have to all be free and available at the same time, as long as you maintain strong, open communication. Use Google Docs for document sharing. Don't email documents back and forth. That's how one person ends up working with an old version of the document while everybody else is working with an updated version. Use a real-time sharing cloud kind of device. I recommend Google Docs. Assign one person to be the communication leader. Maybe they're the person who every time you have questions for me that your group couldn't answer, they come to me. And assign another person who's familiar with Google Docs and document formatting to be the document manager. That way, they're the ones who start your documents, who share the documents with everyone, get everyone set up on Google, That's an important task, but it also requires expertise. So whoever uses Google Docs the most, they may want to take on this role of document manager. And last but not least, break down the tasks and break them down by strength. I've created a sample task breakdown document, which I've provided in the additional resources folder of the proposal project as an idea, as a sample for you. You can take this document, put it in Google Docs, and edit and revise it to make it fit the needs of your group. Some groups take that document and just put their own names in there, just as is. Other groups move things around and assign tasks differently. We're going to take a quick look at that after I'm done with this slideshow, just to show you a little bit more what you can do with that document. All right, so throughout the process, you'll have questions. Your first instinct tends to be to just email me or to post in the discussion board in the Cyber Cafe. Try not to do that as your first attempt. Talk to your teammates first. Help each other look through the assignment sheets, the resources, to answer that question. Exhaust your resources before you contact me, because I'm not going to be with you in your jobs, and you don't want to be that person who goes to your boss for everything and can't work independently and problem solve on your own. That's what your group is there for. Use them, use your resources. And good luck. I believe in you. I've been doing group projects for a long time. There's always a group or two that doesn't do so well, but overall, people tend to enjoy working in groups more than they thought they would, and the most effective groups, the most positive group experiences, stem from strong communication, leadership, and people who are open to other people's ideas. But I know you can do it, and I know that you will do it. So, like I promised, I want to take a quick look at the document management, the proposed or sample document management document that I have on Blackboard for you. It looks a little crazy, but don't worry, there is a method to the madness. Let's say you have 4 people in your group. Everybody's tasks that they will take on throughout the proposal process are listed in a row, or in a column, a column here. And then the week or the due time is a different color and a different row here. And then each of these tasks that you see here is broken down even further in the task breakdown. This will all make a lot more sense once you look at your weekly checklists and once you look at the proposal assignment sheet. But as a group, you need to take a look at this document. See if it works for you. Does it help you guys to have responsibilities assigned to a specific person each week? Is there a better way that you would like to manage your task breakdown or your task assignments? Whatever you do, just be sure that it's communicated well to your group members, because everybody has to know what their goal is, what their task is each week, and what their task is by the end of the project. Okay? All right, so if you have any questions, talk to your group first. And then if your group can't figure it out, have your communication leader reach out to me through the Cyber Cafe, through the discussion board, or through email.